Hello, hello, hello. It is Tammy and it is Tuesday and I'm late. That seems to be a very common thing on Tuesdays lately. Hey, I decided I wanted to paint a couple Halloween themed things with you today, and I'm going to do them on glass. Now this is a glass wine bottle, and I actually was painted last year with just some orange paint and it looks like a little bit of shimmer, but it's gotten chipped and such in storage. So we're going to give that a little more coverage. And then I just have this plain mason jar. I mean, plain as it doesn't even have any of the fun mason stuff on it. And I'm just going to talk to you just real quick about, there's all sorts of lids you can get. This happens to be one that was from a candle and it happens to fit on the lid. So that might be nice. They have lids that you can purchase, Amazon, different places. This one is actually has a cutout, so if you wanted to, it could be more of like a hanging lantern. They have ones that are fairy lights that are solar that you can do, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to be painting this, and I'm not 100% sure what yet. But first I'm going to take this guy, and like I said, I don't know what exact colors he was, but one of the ways I like to deal with paint, now I'm using straight acrylic today. You can use enamel paint. I will paint this with regular acrylic, and then after it is completed, I will actually give it a coat of polyacrylic or varnish, whatever. You always want to make sure your paint is good and dry, or that varnish can pick it up. You want your paint to be good and dry. So if I'm working with regular acrylic on something decorative, I'm not going to bake it. I'm just going to give it a protective coat. You can even spray it with a spray sealer. Like I said, this one has a couple little nicks and dings in it, so we're not going to try to guess what color I used to begin with. Instead, I'm just going to put out some orange and a little yellow, and we'll start with that. And I'm just going to use a little sea sponge. This is an old sea sponge. If you had a like a household sponge, that would work too. But I'm just going to dab into, let's go down, let's look this way. So I'm going to grab some yellow and some orange, and I'm just going to kind of re-dab over this here and there so it has a little consistency. Sometimes when we put things away for the season, we don't wrap them well or at all. And then when we bring them out, they might be too scratched for our liking, but we can still use the base of what we had going. So this one had a little bit of sparkle in it too, so I might pick up a little of that. But all I've really got is this background that's kind of malted. What has happened here? Hang on a sec. I was trying to do a time lapse last night when we were doing our virtual bonfire, and it didn't quite work. So you can see if it's shiny, it's still wet. So let's just set that aside for a sec. And I'm going to take the jar that I had, and I'm going to think about the colors I kind of used last night to get my dark sky, which was a little bit of navy and a little bit something darker. I used Prussian. If you didn't have it, you could just put a touch of black in it. And I might have a little bit of white going on too. So I've got these two colors that are pretty dark. And I'm just going to grab a little white too. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sponge my background on this because sponging just kind of goes relatively quickly. You can start with a dry sponge or a damp sponge. This is my navy. This is a little bit of the darker colors. And I'm just going to start covering up this jar with this darker color. Now, one of the things we did last night in our sky was when we mixed a little white in with this, we're going to do the blue first on this. Then we added a little bit of alizarin crimson, which is kind of a purpley red, and it really kind of gives it a fun effect. I gotta turn this. You can decide how far up you want to go. Just sponging it on. Oops, I picked up a little white. That's okay, because I want a little white in here too. Pick up my blues. I'm going to try to get into this area a little better. So it's not completely opaque. I can still kind of, if I wiggled my fingers, you could probably see them through here. But I'm going to find an area that I want to be a little bit lighter. And I'm going to make that where my design is going to be. So I'm thinking a gnome. I think a gnome for Halloween might be fun. Okay. Just checking out, making sure I've got decent coverage. I'm gonna hit a little bit of my bottom too. Coming back up near the neck. Just kind of pushing it in next to the neck there. And I'm gonna say I wanted to pick a little area that I want to be a little lighter. So now I'm gonna pick up a little bit of white. And we'll make right here just a little bit lighter. Just tapping this on. And that I'm going to pick up a little tiny bit of that alizarin crimson I said. See if I can find us on my iPad. Doesn't seem to want to be helping me find us right now. That's okay. I will always go back and look for comments. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, even when I'm late and you show up. And I would, love, love, love if you would help cheer this around or sprinkle or whatever the right word is for the day. I'm still looking to see if I can possibly find us, which would be really cool and great if I could. I think I did. Yay, yay. So let me see if I can see anybody here with me. Hey, Liz. Hey, Lois. Great. Thank you for the sprinkle in Vermont. So still same sponge. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that reddish color I said. That is my alizarin crimson. I'm just tapping it on my plate a little bit so it's not quite so strong. And I'm lightly going to come around in here and give it a little bit of this purpley glow. And I can always come back and add a little more blue if it gets to be too much. But just nice little color. Now, I kind of like a sky that has a little bit of a sparkle to it. So I'm going to go back into my darker blues, dirty sponge and all. And I'm just going to kind of go around the outer edge, picking up a little more blue. Ran out of blue. Ran out of blue. I'm just going to go around here. Oops, I don't know where the yellow came from. I don't think we have yellow on our plate yet. Fun colors. Good night sky. And let's pick up a little bit of, now Twinkles is going to be just a sparkle. And Galaxy Glitter, Galaxy Glitter is a little chunkier. Either one would work. I'm going to try the Galaxy. And there was yellow on my plate. Oh, from the first one. Now there's blue on my thumb. Still with this blue. A little bit of Galaxy Glitter. It's always a good idea, too, to wear a glove when you're doing this. I did not. But I'm just going to pick up a little bit of this gallery. It's a little chunkier. I'm not sure I love that. We might just go back to Twinkles. It's there, but I don't know if you can see. It's kind of chunky. It's probably a $1 mason jar, so I don't think I can screw it up too much. You never know, though. So I'm just going to go back over, a little bit of sparkle. This all has to dry before I could actually paint a design on it. And of course, I can always come back and add sparkle afterwards, too. But we got a little bit of sparkle. I'm done with my blue sponge. Like I said, it's pretty opaque, but you can still kind of see a little bit through that. So I'm just going to get rid of my sponge. I'm going to set this aside for a half sec. And I think this is about dry. It is. Let's go ahead and just hit that with a blow dryer to make sure. And we'll start with that one. Hit both of them quickly, quickly. Here's my wine bottle. Gave them a little bit. Hello, Pat. Hello, Cam. Nice to see you. So these are really fun if you can find the lights that look like a little wine cork and you put them in there, and then the little fairy lights. That even though I painted this and it seems like it's fairly, let's try that, fairly opaque. You'll still see a little bit of light glimmer in there. I might even have one. I do have one over there. I might grab and show you. So I think on this guy, I'm going to paint some pumpkins. And even though it has a few little scratches, that really covered it up mostly. So even though this is kind of an orangey background, I'm going to go ahead and try to go with a little darker orange. This should show up. If it doesn't, we'll add some more color to it. Hello from Arizona City. And I'm going to make sure I have a shading color available to me too. And maybe we will stack our pumpkins with some different colors. Maybe we'll have an orange one and maybe a whitish one. And you've seen me paint pumpkins before, so this might not be anything overly new and exciting, but it's always fun just to paint. So I'm going to do him this way. Wish I could turn you guys right side up. I really do. So let me do it this way. Facebook has been so odd done. Well, nope, that'll turn it the other way. Okay, we'll do it the best we can. Now you can always sketch it on if you wanted to. I'm just gonna go for it. And I'm gonna start by just creating my pumpkins. This is gonna be about this big, okay? I'm not even gonna fill him in yet. I'm just gonna, well, maybe a little bit. Just give it an idea where this pumpkin's gonna be. And I'll come back and add some more detail to it. This is gonna be my orangish pumpkin. That's really hard to see. Then I'm just gonna wipe off my brush and I'm gonna dip into my buttermilk. I'm gonna create about a shape. We will give him more fun, interesting things in a minute or two. I'm just gonna get these shapes on here. I might need to make my bottom pumpkin a little bigger. Just okay. I'm just wiping my brush off and go back into my orange to make this one a little bigger. I've not added any fun details to them at all yet. And then I'm going to come up here and I think we'll make this one a little more on the green side. So I'm mixing some yellow and some white. And we're going to make this one just this round pumpkin right up like here. Basic shape. And then I'll turn it around so you can watch me add more fun details. Okay, so that's what we've got to start with. I think that'll be good. All right, so far I haven't washed my brush at all. I've just kind of laid on pumpkin shapes. So I'm going to go into this darker orange color, which is a burnt orange, and I'm going to go on the edge of it. My paint's still a little wet, but I'm going to give it a little bit of space. Give it another section. Then I'm going to flip my brush around. Still paint just on the corner. Pick up a little more. I'm going to carefully, right underneath that ivory pumpkin, do a little bit of shading. Oops. I'm going to rinse my brush out a little bit. I'm going to pick up the orange that I base coated it with that we can barely see and pick up a little extra yellow. And I'm just going to try to lighten up those sections just with a couple little strokes. Now, when you're painting with regular paint on glass, if you go over it too soon, you can just pick it up. So a little bit of patience is helpful. So now we've done our ivory one, and I need to shade him a little bit. Hello, Joanne. So nice you guys are here. Appreciate it. I'm going to try something. This is actually Deco Art's Rich Espresso. So it's actually a metallic, but I think it'll work. If not, we'll just grab some regular brown. I'm going to do the same thing I did, just picking up a little bit of paint on the edge of my brush. And I'm just going to put this metallic-y color on the outer edge, then give it another little section. Maybe one more in the middle. And I'll flip my brush around so I'm doing kind of the opposite here. Still have a little yellow in my brush. It's okay. It's okay with this. And I'm going to do this dark color on the outer edge. And again, picking up a tiny bit of this darker color, I'm going to kind of just going to pity pat it underneath this top pumpkin. So now I've got 2 pumpkins. And I think I'm going to give this one a little bit of a greenish tint. So here is some Hauser Green Light. That should work just fine. And if you're not somebody who feels comfortable putting paint just on the edge of your brush, you literally could take just a round brush like this. I'm picking up my green, and you could just line on the outer edge and then just kind of go back over it just a couple times to soften it so it's not a real strong line. And then do that again to create your next section. Now my paint is not wet per se underneath. But if I go over it a couple times, it does soften it. Hello, 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 Vivian. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that dark orange from the first one, and I'm just going to pull a couple little lines from the bottom up. Oops, that might be too much. That's okay. A little bit of orangish color. And a little bit of orangish color coming down back at me. Just a little bit. Now, you can make this a fall bottle, or you can make this a Halloween bottle, depending on what's happening in the pumpkins themselves. If you want them to be fall, you could just start adding some stems and some vines. If you wanted them to be more of a Halloween, which I think I'm going to make this guy a little more Halloween-y, we could start giving them some faces. So let's give this guy some yellow triangle eyes to begin with. I'm going to try to make this about the same place. Doing this upside down, so a tiny bit of grace, please. I might have to look at these before we go too far. So there's my yellow first and foremost for my eyes. And I'm going to give him a little, I'm going to give him a little bit of a circle for a nose. I'm going to start with my yellow. And I'm just going to give him the very bottom idea of his mouth. I'll give him more when I get going on. Then I'm going to go up and do the same beginnings for this guy. I'm going to give him some circle eyes. I'm going to do the yellow first, so that it's going to look like a bit of a glow when I come in with my black. I'll give him a little bit of a triangle nose. And we'll give him, that's the beginning shape of his mouth. I know the yellow is kind of hard to see, but that's okay. You will trust me for just a moment or two. Yeah, I'm not sure how amazing my upside down painting is going to be. We're going to see. Hang on. I'm going to bring you down, okay? Ooh, just a little closer. All right. And then, of course, this guy's going to need some kind of eyes as well. Let's just maybe give him this part of his eyes that are going to be glowing. And we'll give him a mouth. And we'll give him just a little triangle, upside down triangle nose. Okay. So I got to let my orange or my yellow dry before I can go back and add my black, or I'll just pick up. So I can decide, maybe I'd like a little bit of green grass. I'm going to pick up something darker, maybe a medium or a dark Hauser green, if I can put my hands on it. Here's a medium, that'll work. I just want to put a little grass down at the bottom of my pumpkin. So I'm just from the bottom up, just going to pull a couple little sprigs. So the hardest part to me, painting on wine bottles, is getting the labels off. I find soaking them being the best method. This guy's going to need something on top. So let's see if maybe I can draw. I don't know if I can draw it upside down or not. I'm going to try. I'm going to try drawing. Need a little black. Let me grab a little black paint. We need black for our eyes anyhow. Our facial features in general. I'm just going to flip him for just a sec. See if I can create a bit of a shape that might look something like a crow. We're going to see what we can do. It's a little more of a beak. I'm not sure this is going to work or not. We're going to try. We'll fill them in and see what we can come up with. Upside down drawing is not my strong suit, but we will try. I want him to look a bit like a bird sitting on top of these pumpkins. If he doesn't, we might have to fix him up quite a bit. Sort of kind of looks like a crow. It needs to be longer. I think he needs to be longer. All right, we have the idea of a crow. Okay, then I'm gonna come back in with some black and must think. Let's just let these be. Just leave this much on one side. Do it on both sides, is that right? And this side. So I'm leaving a little bit of yellow on the bottom and on the outer edge of his eye on this one. And his nose, I believe we will just give a little bit on the bottom for a glow. Might need a smaller brush. And I'm just going to get a little more black. I think I'm going to have this guy come up. Down and down and up and down. I have to come in and fill in a little more yellow. I'm going to just outline the bottom. He's okay. And then you can decide if you want to outline completely or just partially the other parts. Little line, little line. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with my eyes and my nose up here. These are going to glow from, the inner glow is going to be here. And then filling in the back part of his eye with the black. They look very weird upside down, guys, but that's okay. Make sure they look about even here just a second, because this guy got a lot bigger than this one, so we're gonna have to make him a little bigger. And we're going to give this guy just a tiny little dot inside his eye here too, so he looks a little more. And then let's do his nose as kind of an upside downish triangle. And his mouth is just going to get this V or W. Looks like a W. On both sides. You obviously could make these any kind of shapes you wanted to. And I promise you they're going to be a little easier if you're looking at them than doing them upside down. So I'm going to flip this guy really quick to see what we can do to fix these eyes. Loop, loop. I made him a little off center, but that's okay. We're going to fix him. Fill in the eye, fill in the eye, and fill in his mouth. One quick sec to get this a little more right. All right, so we have these funky faces. Thank you for the heart, I appreciate that. And then they can have little flecks of white or yellow. Doesn't really matter which one, just to give it a little bit of highlight. It'd be like if you were giving a white highlight in your eyes, but we're just gonna get these little yellow ones here. Just a little flick here, a little flick here, maybe a little flick on the nose. Okay, so we have these funky faces. I like to, even though they are obviously jack-o'-lanterns at this point, I'm gonna grab a little bit of brown or dark green, either one, and I'm gonna give them a few little vines. Oops. Quick peecaw. Maybe we need, let's go ahead and give him a stem first and foremost. Let's just give him a little stem here. Starts in the middle, comes up, and we'll let it be a twirly one. Come around. And maybe you have a couple little vines coming out of your pumpkin still. And I'm going to go ahead and give him a little bit of a moon up here. Oh, thank you for the sprinkle. And your moon can be full. Let's go ahead and give him a nice full moon right about there. Let's go ahead. We'll start with the yellow. I'm going to start with the yellow. I'm just going to draw a circle. A nice full moon. Maybe a different brush. Maybe a brush that actually has the ability to hold some paint. So there's my yellow for my moon. Make it nice and good size. And while it's still got some moisture and it's still a little wet, I'm going to pick up a little bit of the orange and kind of go around the edge of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take most of the paint off my brush and I'm going to dip it into the white and tap it off my paper towel. And I'm just going to tap, 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 tap inside this moon. So I've kind of broken it up so it looks like a little more moon-like. And while I still got this from last night sitting here, this is Glamour Dust. This is gold. So I'm just going to put a dot of that down. Haven't cleaned my brush yet. And I'm just going to tap a little bit of this on there too, so it'll have this little goldish glimmer to it. I'm gonna see if I can actually reach this set of lights over here. So those faces definitely could be a little neater, a little cleaner, but you get the idea. And this is one of the light sets I was talking about that looks kind of like a wine cork. And I'm going to try to stick it inside the wine bottle. We'll see how much of a glow it has. I think our green pumpkin is a little too green, so I might need to go back and lighten him up a little bit. He looks a little scary, a little too green, but it's okay. It's just paint. So I'm sticking this light inside here. We're going to see, whoops, if I can get it in. It's not that difficult, it's just the angle, the dangle that I'm in. And then when I turn it on, it has this glow. Isn't that fun? Fun, fun, fun. If it would stay on, there we go. Fun, fun, fun. All right, so if you want to hang on with me for a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and take this blue jar that we did. Again, this was just regular acrylic paint, nothing fancy. Oh, I know the color. I probably don't. Oh, I do have it. Yeah, I do have it. So I'm actually going to start this with some warm beige. And we are going to start with a clean brush. Oh, thank you for those hearts. Thank you, thank you. I wasn't sure how that was going to turn out. No, it turned out okay. So it's kind of fun. So I'm going to start this with a nose. And this is warm beige. It's the color I tend to use for my noses. And I'm going to, let's make his nose about here. Okay. Nose might need a little reshaping, but that's okay. We'll start it off here. You can always change a little bit. It's gonna have to dry before you can get a second coat. Then I'm gonna pick up a little white and a little black. I'm gonna make a gray. Or if you've got a gray hanging out, go ahead and just put your gray out. And I'm going to go ahead and stroke in the beginning of a beard. And again, we're doing this upside down, so be kind. I'm not sure how much of a beard I want, so let's start with this. We can always come back and add more. Yeah. I know, it looks a little silly. I'm going to give him some Hauser green legs. So there's one leg, and there's another leg. Going to give him a little space between his legs. He'll need shoes in just a minute. I'm going to go into our black paint. I'm going to give him a bit of a hat. So I'm going around his nose, and I'm kind of pulling it out a little bit on each side. I'm going to come up. I'm going to come up at quite a bit of an angle. Quite a bit of an angle. A little bit of a twisty turn in there. Fill it in with some black. Let's go ahead and let it droop a little bit. Just with my black. We'll just shape up this hat just a tiny bit here. Kind of make it look a little more witch-ish. Let's go ahead where we've got the black out and maybe give him some shoes. So I'm going to do a line straight down from his socks on each side, okay? And make a tiny little line that goes underneath there. And then come back up. Gonna give him a little bit of a scoop up and out. A little bit of a scoop up and out, up and out. I ran out of paint. Up and out. Then from that pointy part, I'm going to come back in, like almost like a little bit of a half moon, till I get to that little heel. And you might need to adjust these a little bit. Maybe the heel needs to be a little wider. Not quite sure. But here's the start for him. I'm going to rinse my brush out, and so I've rinsed it out of the black. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that gray I used for the beard. And here I might decide if I might want that beard to be just a little fuller too. Let's go ahead and make that beard a little fuller. Just because he's going to hold something and I need to have a place for his hands. I'm going to wipe that off, but I'm not cleaning it. And I'm just going to kind of go a little bit above here so it looks like he's got some shading on the bottom part there. We'll give it a couple little marks inside. Gonna wipe that off. I think I'm gonna go back into that gray. I'm going to kind of follow the curvature of this hat. I'm going to let it be kind of sketchy, okay? And then I'm going to come back and make it look a bit like a spider web. So making V's between these sections. But it doesn't have to be very defined. It just has to be more of the illusion, kind of a spider webby hat. Just kind of the illusion. But if we have a spider webby hat, I think we'll have to go back to black and give us a couple little dashes down and then create a body. And then a little head. And then just with the very tip of your brush, or go to a more detailed brush, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Little spider hanging off of his hat. Now my nose should be dry enough to give it a second coat. That was the warm beige. So I'm going to come back in here with my warm beige. While it's still wet, either with that same brush or if you want to switch to a little bit more of a flat, get the yellow out of it. Still have a little bit of that color in my brush. I'm going to pick up just a tiny bit of red, or I have that alizarin crimson. That'll work too. I'm just going to tap it on my plate or my paper towel and just give him a little bit of a pink underside of his nose. He might need a second coat of that, but it's a good start. Let's go back to our little brush and either the yellow or the orange, or maybe a combination of the two to make it nice, and just give him some stripes in his little socks. Should be about room for like 3 stripes. Okay. Now, I love a rake brush. We all know Tammy loves her rake brushes. Those are the brushes that look like this, that have the, try to get it so you can see. And if I go into my white with this, I'll show you real quick. I'm not going to probably do this today, but it separates, and then I can just get all these lots of little lines at one time. Now they come in different sizes, so you can have different sizes for your needs. This one's a little big for this guy, but that's okay. Or you can simply go back in with your liner brush or your round and draw you some wispy wisps. Make him go longer. Not ivory. I like to do little short ones right next to my nose. If your gray is still wet, it's going to blend, which is okay. I'll just have another shade of gray. Which means you might need to come back and do this more than once. No gnomes have the exact same beard, in my opinion. I think I want him to hold something, either a sign or maybe, I think he's going to hold a pumpkin today. So I know that's really wet, and if I go to put orange on it, it's going to turn really a light color. So I'm going to hit it just really fast. I'll let it dry for a second more. And while it's drying, I'll take any old brush and a little bit of brown, and I'm just going to put a little bit of ground underneath him. Nothing fancy. If you need a little grass, you can pull some green. All depends on what time of year it is and how much ground there still is. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that gray and just put a little highlight on the top of his shoe and the front of his little stocking. Now, I'm going to find me a little bigger brush, put that rake in there, and I'll see if I can make this orange turn out. I'm just going to give him the shape first. He's going to need a second coat, isn't he? It's okay. We'll give it one. I'm going to try to make this look like a pumpkin, if I can do this upside down. Definitely need a second coat on that. Hold tight. I'm going to pull his hat down a little bit. His hat seems like it's a little too far up for him. I'm just going to go back to that black and just pull his hat down a little bit to his nose, just a little more. I like that better. I'm going to give my orange a second coat. Much better. Much better coverage. And just like I did on the pumpkins on the thing we just painted, I'm picking up a little bit of that dark orange. And I'm going to make that on the outer edge. And again, if this is not comfortable for you, go ahead and just use a little bit of a liner or a round brush. And just get yourself some little bit of definition into your pumpkin. Doesn't have to follow mine exactly. I'm going to rinse my brush. Just going to pick up a little bit of yellow. You can mix it with a little bit of the orange if I don't want to be quite so strong, but just in between, just to highlight my pumpkin just a touch. And wipe that off. I'm going to pick up brown. I'm going to let my stem sit right about here. Just going to be a simple stem. Hello from Ohio. Make sure my stem is inside there. And then I think I might pull a little bit darker brown in a couple spots. I'll let that pumpkin dry for just a sec. And I'm going to go back to my warm beige. I'm just going to create this little bit of a hand. So a little thumb, a little hand part. And it's just going to disappear into his... Oh, I have to turn this way because otherwise they're not going to look anything the same. Hang on. Hang on. I ran out of paint. Just steal from this one. So I've just got my two little hands, the little bit of a thumb, and then that little part of the hand onto my pumpkin, pick up a little brown so I can kind of define that a little more. There's my thumb. There's the bottom. There's the top of my hand. There's my thumb. And if I want to see his arm, we'll just pick up a little orange. We'll just say that he's wearing an orange shirt. You can just see his cuff a little bit. A little more of his cuff down here. And I'll rinse my brush out. And either with the gray, the dark gray, or even almost black, we can just kind of give him a little bit of a line so it looks like his arm would be coming at us. All right, so we need a little something else on that pumpkin. So this is where he could be a jack-o'-lantern, but I think my pumpkin is going to be the home for a couple spiders. So here's the body. That one. Maybe he's got a little head going down this way. I'll do one this way, a little head here, a little body here. And then I would certainly suggest a little more fine detailed brush for doing the legs of him. If I can find one super quick. Yeah, I can. Yes. Just a little thinner. And just remember, they need to have 8 legs. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On that guy. Oops, almost missed one. He might have been in an accident. And we'll have this one going up this way. Need a little moisture in my brush. Probably not that much though. I think this would be really cute if you just tied twine around it. Or maybe on the opposite side, it could say trick or treat. This guy too could have, that would be fun. We'll add a little moon up here for him too. This time I'm actually going to start with my white on my brush. And I'm going to tap the white. I'm just tapping it. I'm going to let it get kind of fuzzy. I'll fill it in. But then I'm going to, white brush, just going to dip it in my water, tap it in my paper towel, and I'm just going to tap that edge just a little bit more so it gets to be a little hazy. Oops. Watch out so you don't pick up paint like I just did. We'll have to let that dry. And then I'll come back in with a little bit of yellow in the center. Low. And where I just had my little boo-boo there, I'm going to go in with a little black. And we're just going to do a little body and a little wing, and we'll have a little bit of a bat flying out of here. They can also be much simpler like just that. It's kind of cute. I think he needs a little, I think I need him to have a few more flyaway hairs. So I'm going to go back in with my white in this little brush, and I'm just going to let him have a few more flyaway hairs off of his beard. He looks a little too controlled for me. So we're going to let him be a little more flyaway. I'm going to flip him around so I can see him this way. Maybe a little tiny bit of highlight on the top of his nose. A little bit of white. Oops, too much too wet. It's okay. Try it again. A little bit of highlight. And I'm going to, one more thing, I'm going to use that red that I had out, and I'm going to paint him a hat band. He's going to have a hat band. It could be orange too. And then I'll come back in with either gold or silver. Not sure I love that. I think I just changed my mind. I think it's going to be orange instead. Changed my mind. It happens. So there it is, the orange, and just a slash of yellow in the middle to highlight it. And let's find us some silver or gold paint. We have gold right there. You'll need just a dot of it. And we'll give our little guy a buckle. So line up, line across, and a tiny little buckle mark in the middle. What do you think? Oops, this way. Our little gnome jar, that if I just close it this way, you can put a little twine around it and be cute, cute, cute. Or you could even put like a tea light inside it and use one of these kind of ones like this that hang. And if you like, you have to put the cover on it though to make it hang. There you go. So there he is. Sweet little thing. And I like that bluish background. And all we did was do a couple colors of blue, some white, and we added a tiny bit of alizarin crimson so it had a little bit of a sparkle to it. And then we also painted these little jack-o'-lanterns on our light up bottle. And that is just done with one of these little wine cork ones. And they're really reasonable. I want to say they're like a dozen of them for like $10 through Amazon. And the little crow. So here you go. A couple little Halloween projects for today's tips, techniques, and teachings. I hope you had fun with them. Hey, if you guys want the tracer for him, let me know. And once he's dry, I'll go back and trace him and plop it into this group. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for sprinkling and sharing. Hope you have a great rest of your day. See, I even have a spider hanging off of mine. There he is. There's my spider. my cheers. Thanks so much, guys. And like I said, when they're dry, you want to let these dry completely. I'm just going to give them a coat of polyacrylic or spray them with a varnish, and they will be super duper fun for the holiday. Have a great rest of your evening. Until I see you again, be kind, be safe. Cheers. Bye-bye.